Welcome to Write with Love. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling author, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. Each week, I chat to passionate and inspiring authors about their journey in creative writing. Some are traditionally published, some do it themselves. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone has something interesting to say. We all love love and love what we do. Today's show is brought to you by our amazing fans and supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the show and get some awesome bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author to learn more. Now here's today's show. G'day, welcome to Write with Love. Today I'm talking to the lovely Sandra Antonelli.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you. So we're here live in your house, and I'm thrilled to have Sandra.
The tablecloth's not that dirty.
She didn't know I was filming, so lucky you on podcasting. Oh, Sandra. So you've got a really interesting story, and I can't wait to talk to you about this. So tell us about yourself and your journey with publishing.
My journey with publishing, or my journey with writing, which one do you want to know about?
Oh, both. Let's see how far we can go into this. Tell me everything.
Let's just sort of go. I kind of always wrote little short stories, even when I was a kid. I remember like winning some short story writing contest in grade 7. Right, there you go. And I didn't really pick it up again until I was in high school. My best friend at the time, she and I used to write little stories or parts of stories and pass them back and forth to each other when we would see each other in the hallway at school, in high school. She remembered this quite recently. It's not something I ever forgot about, but we did this for quite a long time. And she later on went on to write a nice little series of middle grade fiction books, or young adult fiction books. I'm not really sure how to classify them. She continued on, and I really didn't start writing again until 15 or 16 years ago.
What?
I don't know why there was such a gap, but I've always liked reading, I've always liked storytelling, and I always liked Megan telling me the stories. Now, Megan's the friend I had from high school. And one day I just had an idea for a story, and I sat down and just started writing, and that's that first book that no one's ever going to see.
Yep.
It's huge. It was like 200,000 plus words in a box somewhere under the bed. So I did that one, and I had some encouragement from a lecturer at a local university who quite surprised me and said I had quite a good voice and quite a good style of writing, and I should continue. So I did. And my second book was actually the 4th book I think I had published.
Wow.
So it took a while. It took a while to kind of, tidy it up and get it into a position to publish it. But it's called Next to You, and I quite like the story. And I don't know what else to say about it other than it would be nice if some other people read it. It's about an albino, or albino, however you want to pronounce it here, who is in middle-aged, and he meets his new next-door neighbor, and that's kind of the story of what happens between them. But that's not that interesting.
So did you pitch to a publisher? How did that all work out? Your first book?
My very first book. Let's backtrack out a bit. I wrote this first book, and then I think I joined the Romance Writers of Australia because I wasn't really sure what to do, and I needed some guidance about the industry, the publishing industry itself.
Yeah.
And because the books I was writing were very female centric, and I was quite interested in writing fiction, for other women, and I knew romance was a form of fiction written mostly by and for women, and it was a genre that I always read, aside from thrillers and crime. So I went with them and got a lot of good information from them. And at one of the first conferences, actually the first conference I went to, I met another university lecturer who was opening up a cohort of master's students at the Queensland University of Technology. And somehow I submitted a sample of my writing, and somehow I got accepted into the program. So did this master's, and part of that was writing another novel as a portion of the exegesis and the master's degree. So that second book I wrote, or actually I think at that point it was the third book I wrote, ended up getting published, but it didn't get published until I'd actually finished the master's degree and started on a PhD. Both the master's degree and the PhD looked at the lack of representation of older women in romance fiction, and actually in fiction, but romance fiction in particular. Why women of a certain age sort of got shut out of the story, or kind of pushed into forms of women's fiction where the story wasn't about how a relationship between two people developed, but more, a journey of self-discovery, because that's kind of more of the focus of women's fiction. So I was quite curious to see, and quite annoyed, that women over 40 weren't really cast as heroines. They were secondary characters, or they were villains, or they were portrayed in ways that was very seldom ever flattering. Women weren't allowed to be whole, sensual, sexual, intelligent beings. They just had to be, invisible, more or less. And you see that quite often in films in Hollywood. Of course, now things are starting to change. But at the time, there wasn't really much out there. There wasn't a lot of information or research, I should say, about women of a certain age, or women over 40 appearing in genre fiction. You'd often see a woman who was over 40 cast as the crime fighter, the detective like Miss Marple, or Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote. But as a lead character, no, that didn't really happen. And like I said, that annoyed me. So when I really started writing, I didn't quite realize that I was writing heroines who were over 40 or over 40. And I did that because I couldn't find these characters, so I decided I'd have to write the stories myself. And I still do that. I still write characters over 40 and over 50, so that's what I do. And, some people out there know that and like, oh God, she's on her soapbox again. I'm trying to pare it back a bit so I'm not quite so this has to change, because it's starting to change. It's starting to change now. The door's open a little bit. And it's creaking open wider a little bit more and more. And you can see that change. The anti-ageism and anti-sexism discussions coming up more and more in the media. So we're on our way, I think. I hope.
Oh, that's exciting. No, that's really good. I know my current series, I'm going to write about the matriarch of the story. She's going to have her own love story.
Thank you.
She's in her mid to late 50s by the time I get to it.
That's great. That's great, because those are stories that need to be told. Younger women don't have those role models to see. It's always, the woman on the sideline, or the evil stepmother, or the shrewish mother-in-law or something. It's not an actual realistic portrayal of women who are middle-aged or older.
That's it. And I'm just trying to think of tropes that we might use with older women. So, I mean, it's a little bit harder to do first love, because you'd presume...
Why? But why? Why do you think it's older?
That's true. I guess it's one of those things you definitely might. I guess most of us think.
I'm sorry, I
20s or 30s.
Didn't mean to jump on you about that.
Why?
It's a soapbox.
That's
the expectations that a lot of people have, because you've been conditioned to see things in this particular way since you haven't seen women past 40, 45, or 50 in these kinds of roles. So you don't have that expectation that you'd see them.
And then, of course, there is always second chance love and those sorts of things as well. So, no, that's brilliant. There is definitely a lot of ideas there. So, yay. So how many books have you written to date?
I always get this wrong. I don't know if it's 5 or 6. Seriously, I have to think about, because I have the book covers. Yes, I'm that person. I have the book covers framed on the wall, and are there 4 there or 5 there? And do I count the ones that I've had published, or do I count the ones that I've had or have written and not published, like the first one that's under the bed in the box, and the one that's the next in the series, 3-book series? So there's 2 in the series. So is that 6.
Yeah.
Or 7 if you include the one that's under the bed.
And the ones that are published, who are they published with?
Most of them are published with Escape, which is part of Harlequin or HarperCollins.
Yeah.
And my most recent one, I went indie with it.
Excellent. So that one's called At Your Service.
Yes, it is.
And
good segue.
I know, I'm getting good at this.
Better than I am with my rambling. Yeah, okay.
So At Your Service is going to be the first in a series.
It's the first in a series, yeah. I call it the In-Service series. It's the first book. The second one's finished. It's almost ready to go, meaning I have yet to send it to my editor, but it's all right.
That's it?
Yeah, there's plans for that to come out.
And your first one has just come out. It came out in August?
No, it came out in September. So it came out a month ago today.
That's right. Yay. That's very cool.
Yay.
And so tell us about the story.
Well, this one's a bit of it's a bit of a departure from what I've written in the past. My previous books were romantic comedies. With 2 of them were romantic comedies, but there was a slight... One of them had a mystery crime in it that needed to be solved, and it had a little bit of graphic visual stuff, right? And then there was one that dealt with Next to You, which I spoke about before, that dealt with PTSD and the loss of a child and a few other things that are a little bit more along the lines of mental health issues, but still couched within that. There's comedy. This one's a little bit more, I like to call it a cozy spy mystery thriller romantic suspense novel, because it does cross genre lines, and it has all of that kind of crammed in there. And probably the most fun I've ever had writing a book, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it. So, yeah.
And I'm loving all the little quotes and taglines that you're putting
in my attempts at doing promo. Yeah, okay.
So tell us about the story itself, the characters, and what we can expect.
Okay, let's put it this way. It's about a female butler who's middle-aged and the spy who loves her. There's the butler, the spy, and there's a deadly toilet brush. And I think I say that on the book cover. There's things I don't want to talk about because I'll give away the story. I have a deep and abiding love for the very misogynistic, very sexist. Well, that's the same thing, isn't it? James Bond, okay, and spy novels and Alistair MacLean novels. There's spies or Jason Bourne, that sort of thing. I just love that. It goes back to my reading choices as a teenager and a young adult and so on. I just looked at the camera, again. Since I like that so much, and I like the whole Bond thing so much, I kind of wanted to see how I could play with people's expectations of a spy, particularly with something so iconic as Bond and the British spy. That whole thing about the super spy. I didn't go into parody. I really wanted to avoid that, but there are some things that you want to call them Easter eggs. That's fine. You can go right ahead and do that, but. I really wanted to see what I could do with someone who's supposed to be so amazing at his job, and have someone distract the crap out of him because of an unrequited love. And I wanted to see what I could do with that. And I had a lot of fun with it. So
excellent.
You want more details?
That'll do it. So let's
Okay.
go and read the book now.
Okay, go read the book.
So how are you going to continue the series? Is the next one going to be the same people?
Yes, it's with the butler whose name is May Valentine and the spy who's Major Kit. And of course, I'm not going to mention the plot to it, but it's a continue of what happens once the spy says, I love you.
Yeah.
And where do you go from there?
Yeah.
And once she says, well, gee, I love you too, where do you go?
Yeah.
What happens after that?
Yeah.
Is that sort of thing actually sustainable?
Yeah.
I don't just mean the storyline, but I mean a relationship like that between two people who are just so different. And she's older than he is.
Oh.
So, there you go.
Go Cougars.
No, she's not a cougar. No.
So you self-published this one.
Yes.
So why did you decide from being a traditionally published author to go self-publishing and do this by yourself?
Do you want me to be frank about this, or should I be really nice?
It's up to you.
It's up to me. Well, it's kind of twofold. I got a little bit frustrated with the traditional publishing model, and everyone who's having a little bit more success than me, you could see that the hybrid model was working quite well for them. And I thought maybe it was time that I ventured forth and see if that model would work for me, if hybrid would kind of be the way to go. So, when you have someone like Anna Campbell who is print and ebooks and then goes into the indie model and lead by example. So I'm like, okay, let me give this a try. So I approached a few friends I have who are authors, and I asked a lot of questions, particularly, and I'm going to name check her because she really deserves name checking, particularly Ainsley Patton. She may say Peyton, but this is my accent. That's the way it comes out in my mouth. She was just so amazingly supportive and held my hand at every turn in how to go about the indie world, and I'm eternally grateful to her. So a bit of a steep learning curve at the beginning, but then it kind of levels out much faster than I thought it would, and I'm enjoying it. And I've had a I don't know if it's because you as the author this time you're responsible for absolutely everything with indie. So maybe it's having my hands dirty with my own work all the time. It makes it just much more enjoyable. Yeah. I don't know what you think of that.
I completely agree that initial working it out is hard, and if you're not particularly techie and that sort of thing, can be really tricky. And then of course the promotions is hard, but once you kind of get your head around that, I find it immensely fulfilling. I love looking at the numbers.
Okay.
I do. I mean, I love it so much. I publish other people's.
Oh, see, that's pretty cool. That's great.
Some people just don't want to do that, and I definitely know of a lot of people I've approached, even just to come onto the podcast, and these are such introverted people that they do not.
How many times have I looked over there? Right.
But they really just do not even want to use their face for anything. Social media, you're one of them, I guess.
Yeah. I don't have my dog face on.
and they don't even want to write a blog. So and that's fine. I mean, there is definitely pros and cons of both sides of the industry, and if somebody was going to come up to me with a 6-figure book deal, I probably would say yes.
Oh God.
But doing indie, I love doing it, and I think it actually gets quite addictive. So you're still in your first book, so I'm going to predict that by the time you've done 3, 4 or 5, it will be completely addictive, and you'll just be going, yep, let's just get that next sucker out there.
Well, I'm already going, and should I move ahead that publication date for the second book? And I'm going, I do that for the third, but I've only recently just started writing on it. And just so people know, I'm not the fastest writer in the world. I don't plot anything, and maybe that's why, but I'm taking my time because I want it to be a good book. That's it. And
quality is definitely, the number one thing. You've got to write a good book, because if you don't write a good book, it won't sell.
No.
So, So what are you working on at the moment? You're getting that second one ready?
The second one's ready. Like I said, it's got to go to the publisher. I've had all the beta readers go through it. My husband, I call him Dr. Shrinky. He's a psychologist, so that makes sense. He's not a huge reader. He likes crime fiction. So recently when we were overseas on holiday, he finished the book that he'd had, and he was looking for something else to read, and I had given him a PDF copy of At Your Service, and he read it. And he did not put it down. He started reading it, and he did not put it down until he finished it. Well, I should say he went to bed and then got up in the morning and finished reading it, and that was astounding because he's never read anything I've written before, and he really, really enjoyed it. So coming from someone who doesn't read, and I'm pointing over there because he's in the other room, somebody who doesn't read to kind of give you that tick of approval, and I know he's my husband, right? But that was pretty exciting. So he has to read the second book now before I send it to my editor and have my editor go, do the editor thing. Thanks, Belinda. What they do. and then have it go out. So yeah, and I can tell you it's called Forever in Your Service because the series is called In Service. And there's going to be that.
That's
good.
good.
And you do understand the service thing, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. It's not just on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's being in service as a butler. See, I'm describing it now and explaining it now. Yeah.
No, well, that is awesome. Well, where can we find you online so we can stay up to date with what you do have going on?
Well, my website's pretty simple. It's sandraantonelli.com. There you go.
Brilliant.
And it has all the, my handles for Facebook and Twitter and all those other bits of social media on there.
And your avatar is a dog.
Yes, it's
with hair and glasses.
Yes, it's my little bud man was and I never particularly wanted my face to be on the internet or on social media, and I am a little bit hesitant to do it. Occasionally I will post a picture of myself, but not that often. So when it came time to choose an image, it was my dog's face superimposed on hairstyles. So yeah, and I'm not going to change that because it's just he's not with me anymore, but that's kind of how I remember him.
Yeah, and it's very cute. You go, who's that?
You go, well, it's been however long I've been on social media, so it's 2009 or something like that, so, or before then, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is excellent. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for talking to me and making this so much easier. I probably did open up a little bit there, but yeah, I'm not quite so self-conscious now at the end.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Jump onto my website, sarahwilliamsauthor.com, and join my mailing list to receive a free preview of my books and lots of other inspiration. If you like the show and want it to continue, you can become a sponsor for just a couple of dollars a month. Go to patreon.com/sarahwilliamsauthor. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a review of the podcast. I'll be back next week with another loved up episode. Bye!